Good morning, Sean. Thank you for waking up this early.
Good morning, Chris. My pleasure. So,
Hello, Miss Clara Ivana. Can you hear my voice? Would you please try to share your screen, Miss Clara?
Okay. Is it enough?
Okay, can you try to show in the full screen and try to move to another slide to make sure that it works? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Miss Clara.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to parallel session 1 of the 7th Language and Language Teaching Conference in this Zoom meeting. My name is Indri Bulandari as the moderator. So, I'm a 7th semester student of English language and education. I will be in charge in this parallel session. So before we start this parallel session, let me read the rules. First, each presentation will last for 15 minutes. 2, 3 presentations will be delivered in a row. The third, we will have question and answer after all of the presentation have finished. For the additional information, the chat box will be closed during the presentations. It will be open 5 minutes before the last presentation have finished, and you can address your question by typing question in the chat box or your name, or directly. And don't forget to mention your name and your affiliation. And the fourth, other rules can be found in the program book. There are 3 presentations that will be presented in this room. So without any further ado, let's start with the first presentation entitled Visual Thinking Strategies and Language Teaching in an Emergency Teaching Era, New Opportunities by Sean Nolan and Crisogonosida Malilang from Malmo Universitet. And it will be delivered by Mr. Sean and Mr. Sida, right? Okay, so
Yep.
Mr. Sean and Mr. Sida, you have 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So today we are going to present what is actually the beginning of our research in visual thinking strategies and language teaching. And we have seen that these visual thinking strategies can actually be the solutions and also provides new opportunities for the language teaching in the current emergency remote teaching era. And before we go on into the visual thinking strategies, we would like to also discuss that in the last several decades, the concept of reading has shifted into something beyond the text, because like currently we might still associate reading with just text and something with letters. But then in 1977, Wolf actually expanded the definitions of reading as a form of perceptual activities. And Freire in 1985 also expanded the concept of reading as reading the word and reading the world. And further supported, this one I will need Sean's help.
Il n'y a pas de hors texte.
As Derrida has claimed that everything in the world is actually a text. So the concept of reading is basically expanded into concepts such as reading the map, reading the musical notations, or even reading the sign. And now on the history of VTS.
Thank you, Chris. So what is VTS, Visual Thinking Strategies? It's a teaching method that is based on the works of Jean Piaget, Leo Vygotsky, John Bruner, and the importance of the role of social interaction in the learning process. It also puts an emphasis on reflective thought, which goes right back to ancient Greece. And also the idea that through reflection, our learning is improved, as was proposed by John Dewey in the early 20th century. Now, visual thinking strategies is the result of a cooperation between Philip Yenwine and Abigail Howson. Philip Yenawine was the director of the Museum of Modern Art in New York, MoMA, the director of the education department of MoMA, and Abigail Howson was a cognitive psychologist who was invited by Yenawine to MoMA to help the education department to improve their courses. And they developed VTS, which they experimented with in the school system, the local school system. And they did this in art classes in the local school system. But very quickly, teachers in other subject areas other than art started to note that their students who were doing these VTS sessions in their art classes were actually showing more improved critical thinking skills, capable of producing more effective argumentation, and doing so in cooperation with their peers in their classroom. They also remarked that these students were more productive linguistically, therefore showing greater language skills or better language skills. And there started to be a demand to also do VTS in subjects other than art. And one of the subjects in which VTS has proved particularly effective outside of the art class is the language class. Thank you, Chris.
Now, what are the components or the elements of VTS as a visual thinking strategist, a strategist that relies on visuals? Of course, one of the most important elements is, or one of the most important components is actually the image itself, or, I mean, other object of study. When we say image, we might probably think of painting or some visual arts, but then image can also be a monument or even something, some kind of visual aids that you are using in your lab experiment. And of course, since as Sean has said, that VTS relies on the role of social interactions. Of course, another important component is actually the peer group students or the participants that will ensure the communications. But before the communication happens, there is something that we usually refer to as the silent looking. We're basically giving time for the participants to take a moment to look and try to get into the image itself. And after the silent looking, another important components, or basically like one of the main driving force in VTS, is the three questions that we're asking to the participants. First is, what is going on in this picture? And what do you see that makes you say that? So the second question actually corresponds to or facilitates and helps the first question, so that the participants will need to explain their logic or to prove what they have said in the first pictures. And this is what will basically drives the discussion further. And later on, the third question is, what more can you or what more can we find?
So thank you, Chris. And the next point, could you click into the next point, please, Chris? Thank you. Yes, another very important component of VTS is listening. The teacher, or to use VTS terminology, the facilitator, pays careful attention to each comment that is made by the audience. And the teacher or the facilitator during a VTS facilitation points to features described by the students in the piece throughout the discussion. After the student makes their point in the discussion, the facilitator paraphrases all of the comments and thereby exposing the student to other language items to describe what they've just said. There is a recognition by the facilitator of each point that is made through, for example, just saying thank you for after every student makes a comment. But the teacher maintains, or the facilitator maintains, neutrality throughout. It should be saying things like, oh, that's a very good point, should be avoided. If you do that, you should do it for all of the points that are made. And therefore, it's better just to maintain neutrality throughout. There is openness. Everybody's point has equal value. And everybody in a VTS session has equal value, thereby encouraging students who would be considered weaker normally to also participate. And so the facilitator at the end of a VTS session or during a VTS session should try to link the peer comments throughout. This all contributes to creating a safe environment for the students during a VTS session. And this has an important implication in teaching, because this creation of an inclusive, safe environment in the classroom helps all the students progress together during a VTS session and afterwards. Teachers have remarked that there is a change in student behavior towards their peers when they are part of a group that does VTS regularly. They are more respectful of other peers, of their peers' point of view, and they work better with them. The silent period for vocabulary building, which has been remarked in language theory, particularly with regard to foreign language learning, where a child, for example, does not say a large amount for a long time in the foreign language until they feel more confident. This is reminiscent of this introduction to VTS sessions, where they take a moment to think about what they're seeing before they actually speak. But it's also possible in VTS for a participant not to speak at all, especially a young child, where they can actually point to something in a piece, a picture or an image or an object, and that can be interpreted by the facilitator. What has been remarked is that people who take part in VTS are better at communicating, they cooperate better with each other, and this even without a teacher's intervention. Very often the teachers, after a VTS session, they will put the picture of the object in a maybe on the wall, or the object in a certain part of the room, of the classroom, and they've remarked that after VTS sessions that pupils go up to this this object or this image, and they start doing VTS all by themselves. So VTS and carrying out a VTS session for about 10 or 20 minutes before or at the beginning of a class can establish, or a school day even, can establish the tone and the cooperative nature of classwork which is to follow. And it sets a standard in what we want to achieve together during our classwork, or during the day. The object or the image that is used for a VTS session at the beginning of a class or the beginning of the working day does not have to have anything to do with the work that one is doing during the day, or it could be carefully selected according to the audience and the subsequent classwork during the day.
And what we are experiencing right now in the era of the emergency remote teaching is that there is this sudden shift to distance teaching or learning, and teachers are trying very hard to replicate what they have been doing in real life. But however, the diminishing real life interactions that does not happen through Zooms actually send some of these teachers to hit a roadblock. And due to this diminishing real life interactions, due to the inability to read some of the micro expressions or even some of the quips from the students, the teachers find it a bit difficult to see the progress of the students. Thus, the teacher generally assumes the progress of the students just from their own perspective, and this actually causes like lots and lots of problems, especially, in the first half of the emergency remote teaching. However, we can actually see the rise of the new opportunities here, that it's not just challenge, we also have all these opportunities, and that most of our teaching through Zooms have become more and more visual. It's and the idea of the interaction is also changing because you can't really have like all of the students talking at the same time, which means if you want to have students talking, then it needs to be one by one, and they are all actually corresponds and opens up the room for the replications of the VTS components that Sean have explained to you before. And and we believe that all of these components can actually be translated online easily. I mean, not perfect, but most of them, or we can probably confidently say like around 95% of these components can be transcribed into the online setting. And consequently, Sean?
So what we have in a VTS session, we have is a situation where the students are seeing, they are looking at an object, they are thinking and reflecting on it. Then they say what they think, and they listen to themselves speaking. Particularly in the paraphrase sage by the facilitator, they listen to themselves, they listen to what they've said, but they also listen to others, and they're internalizing what others are also saying about the object, and they're thinking based on what other people are saying about the object. They're seeing it again in a new light. They're thinking about it again, reflecting about it based on what other people have said and what they've said earlier. And then they're coming out with new opinions on that object. They continue to listen to themselves, and they continue to go through this circle of thinking, whereby the object that they've seen at the first part of the VTS session suddenly takes a much more deeper and profound shape, and they get new ideas about that object by the end of the VTS
We have
session.
2 minutes left.
Okay, and I'll finish up. And they do this in cooperation with others. So after the VTS session, what do? Well, I would propose a New York Times solution, which can be applied everywhere. New York Times, along with VTS org, VTS Home org in the United States, they provide a free image every week where they ask what's going on in this picture. And it's something that pupils and students and people around the world can actually do by themselves. And people who are well-versed in VTS and well-used to VTS can do this together by themselves outside of the classroom. But it takes time. VTS has to be done in the classroom first, and people have to be used to it first. I will finish there. Thank you.
And so we believe that it was probably not enough within 15 minutes to completely mention what VTS is. So we would like, we're going to, Sean and I and our research group is actually going to organize an international webinar on VTS, which will happen on the 11th of December, and that is free of charge. And if you are interested in attending, you can contact us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sean and Mr. Sida, for the insightful presentation. And now let's move on to the next presentation. The next presentation will be delivered by Ms. Clara Ivana from Sanata Dharma University with a presentation entitled Learning Strategies Used by IELTS Test Takers with at least 7.5 as overall band score. So, Ms. Clara, you have 15 minutes. You may start.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Clara, and I would like to present you about my paper entitled Learning Strategies Used by IELTS Test Takers with at least 7.5 as overall band score. In this globalization era, more students are interested to continue their higher education abroad. Guru's 2008 revealed student mobility is one component of the international higher education scene in today's world. More students are more willing to leave their homes to seek the truth in education and knowledge. Students are motivated to search for the best but affordable education anywhere in the world. They aim to be able to join the global labor market competition and create more business and social networks. As a result, a big number of students attend institutions of higher education in foreign countries. The problem is the tuition fees are obviously not affordable for many students. Michael 2005 supported the fact that the unit cost of higher education, that is, the cost of producing one graduate in any discipline, has risen steadily. Seeing the importance of higher education, therefore, universities and other institutions try to provide funding aids such as scholarships. Both scholarships and foreign universities application need English language proficiency tests, especially in English native countries. Most of Australian and European countries require their international students to have official IELTS certificates. The minimum score needed is 6.5 for the average of 4 skills. However, every scholarship and university have different policies about the IELTS score required. They range from 6.5 until 7.5 as the overall score. The average of IELTS score taken by Indonesian speakers in 2018 is shown in the first table. The second table shows the mean overall and individual band scores accomplished by IELTS academic test takers from Indonesia. As an English learner, every test taker has their own difficulty in preparing the IELTS test. However, what is behind the urge of taking IELTS test must motivate the learners to achieve the targeted band score. In the end, learners decide how to learn more efficiently and how best to improve their learning outcomes. Therefore, being aware of having sufficient knowledge and of learning strategies is important to obtain the best result. Some studies report that higher proficiency learners apply more strategies than lower proficiency learners. Alice 2015. First, the study investigates learning strategies which were used by English learners who got at least 7.5 as overall band score for their IELTS test. Second, this study expected to discover learning strategies as their devices or tools to learn English efficiently, especially the implementation of metacognitive strategies. Next, what is IELTS? I'm pretty sure that many of you know IELTS already. International English Language Testing System, or IELTS, is a popular English language proficiency test around the world. Many people take IELTS tests to join academic and professional institutions in Australia, the UK, the USA, Canada, New Zealand, and other countries in which English is used in the workplaces and classrooms. Here is the description of Band 7 until 9 in scoring IELTS. There is no specific description for 7.5 test takers, but they are obviously grouped as better than good users. They fulfill the description for Band 7, but not for the whole Band 8. Also, Band 7.5 is classified as C1 or proficient in Common European Framework of Reference or CEFR. Now, what is learning strategies? Several definitions of learning strategies imply the actions done to achieve expected results of language learning. It tends to be practical rather than theoretical. Some are observable, but some are not. Language learners have expectation. Thus, learning strategies are applied on purpose. Weaver et al. 2005 added some are consistently employed and others are automatic. The main goal of learning strategies is communicative competence. Learning strategies help learners participate actively in authentic communication. For example, metacognitive strategies help learners to manage their own cognition and to focus, plan, and evaluate their progress. Effective strategies improve their self-confidence and perseverance needed. Learning strategies consist of direct and indirect support of learning. Direct strategies are memory strategies, cognitive strategies, and compensation strategies. And then indirect strategies are metacognitive, affective, and social strategies. Now, what is metacognitive strategies? Oxford 1989 defined metacognitive strategies as actions which go beyond purely cognitive devices and which provide a way for learners to coordinate their own learning process. Learners who use metacognitive strategies must be able to coordinate themselves. Oxford revealed that in metacognitive strategies, there are 3 strategy steps: centering your learning, arranging and planning your learning, and evaluating your learning. Centering your learning includes overviewing and linking with already known material, paying attention and delaying speech production to focus on listening. Next, arranging and planning your learning consists of finding out about language learning, organizing, setting goals and objectives, identifying and find out the purpose of language tasks, planning for a language task, and seeking practice opportunities. Furthermore, evaluating your learning comprises self-monitoring and self-evaluating. The study employed a qualitative study to answer the research questions. The subjects of this study were 15 people who joined official IELTS test, especially academic module, and got at least 7.5 as their overall band score. The first evidence used was in the form of documents. There were copies of IELTS certificates which showed that they got 7.5 as overall band score to verify the subject selected. The second evidence was derived from questionnaires of the Strategy Inventory for Language Learning, or SILL, version 7.0. The results showed that what learning strategies were used by the IELTS test takers. Then two participants were selected to be interviewed in order to answer the second research question. Semi-structured interviews were conducted in written via online chat. The data were coded to classify the learner's metacognitive strategy set. The findings of the document interpretation, questionnaire, and interviews were described in the form of narrative, and finally, brief conclusions of the research findings were drawn. Here is the result of SLIL questionnaires used. The learning strategies used most by the participants were social strategies, metacognitive strategies, and compensation strategies. The results show that those strategies were always or almost always used. I will mention the examples of the implementation for each strategy. First, social strategies. 8 learners learn through interaction with others. Learners can ask help from people who have higher proficiency of their peers. Second, metacognitive strategies demand the learners to have autonomy to manage, regulate, monitor, and evaluate their own learning. Third, some strategies which are evolved as compensation strategies stated by Oxford are guessing intelligently and overcoming limitations in speaking and writing. In short, all these numbers mentioned in the table show that the test takers with at least 7.5 as overall band score almost use all the learning strategies before taking the exam. There are 12 participants with 7.5 and 3 participants with 8.0 as their overall band scores. All of the participants who have taken the survey are grouped as more than good users. Ghani et al. Revealed that the research result that high speaking performance students usually employ all types of learning strategies. Alice 2015 added that studies that have been conducted using similar approach to this study generally report that higher proficiency learners use more strategies than lower proficiency learners. Two participants who were chosen to be the interviewees were participant 3 and participant 9. These two participants have the highest overall band scores among all participants, and mostly they use metacognitive strategies. Every participant had their own motivation for taking IELTS tests and made their own ways to achieve their targets. Next, I will tell you briefly about the two participants. First, I will tell you about participant 3. Participant 3 is an IELTS teacher and learner. Therefore, she realizes that making great efforts is needed in doing IELTS test preparation. Participant 3 took the IELTS test because her previous IELTS certificate is already out of date. Participant 3 set the highest target of band score, 9, for every skill. Before taking the IELTS test, both of the participants did some preparation. Participant 3 prepared the reading and listening tasks by looking for the most recent and trustworthy references which provide IELTS listening and reading questions. Participant 3 practiced reading and answering questions many times and checked the incorrect answers more thoroughly to analyze the reasons as noticing one's own mistakes. Participant 3 also made a practice of at least 2 exercises in a week. Participant 3 saw that her schedule is effective because she was able to fully concentrate in her exercises. Participant 3 mentioned that her obstacle was time management, especially when working on reading exercises. She solved it by answering all the questions 30 minutes earlier, and it costed her some avoidable mistakes. In the end, participant 3 evaluated her work, especially in writing, by acting as an examiner for her essay. Participant 3 knows approximately how to assess IELTS writing, thus she is able to put some feedback on her own writing. All of the action mentioned can be categorized as metacognitive and cognitive strategies. To prepare the speaking task, participant 3 ask a friend to be the question giver and follow the protocol for the whole speaking task, especially when making a practice of part 2 in IELTS speaking task. This can be categorized as a social strategy. Okay, now let's move to participant 9. What motivated participant 9 to take an IELTS test was because she would like to join Tiffany Scholarship and she aimed to get 7 as the band score for every skill. Participant 9 started her preparation since 4 months prior to the official IELTS test. She analyzed every part of IELTS test instrument every day until she got better comprehension of them. Participant 9 also practiced listening, reading, and speaking complete tasks twice a week, but practiced writing 4 times a week. She admitted that she still needed to face a time management issue. Therefore, participant 9 fully realized that only being committed herself to IELTS practice was the only solution to do it persistently. Some specific actions done by participant 9 for listening and reading tests were making herself familiar with the level of difficulty of reading passages, studying the question types in IELTS reading tests, and endeavoring to find the most effective ways in answering such questions and seeking opportunities to read English academic texts as many as possible. She also examined the gradual change of level difficulty started from section 1 to section 4 of listening tasks. Then she learned the types of listening task question and worked on the exercises regularly by applying some types and strategies obtained from several reliable sources on the internet. To prepare IELTS writing and speaking tests, she studied rubric of IELTS writing and speaking and comprehended them to investigate how she should write and speak in order to get 7 as the band score. She also examined the types of questions in IELTS, both writing task 1 and writing task 2. Participant 9 used to evaluate her speaking and writing skill by having regular practice and working hard. Continuously evaluating self-progress is one of the essential metacognitive strategies, but often forgotten by learners. There are other actions done by participant 3 and participant 9, which cannot be mentioned in this presentation. So in conclusion, the most frequent learning strategies used were social and metacognitive strategies. It shows that learners obviously have high awareness to coordinate their own learning in preparing the IELTS test persistently, and they got more advantages by making the learning process successful with others' help. Discussing more specifically about participants 3 and 9, who are labeled as very good users, metacognitive strategies employed by them are paying attention, organizing, setting goals and objectives, identifying the purpose of a language task, seeking practice opportunities, self-monitoring, and self-evaluating. Those strategies comprise several actions such as determining specific and clear goals since the beginning, making practice as their routines, observing their own progress, looking for solutions to improve their skills, and noticing their errors of mistake and correcting them. Based on the interviews, some other strategies are also clearly employed, such as social and cognitive strategies. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Clara, for your interesting presentation. And now, let's continue for the next presentation. It will be delivered by Miss Atta Relicia Aziz with presentation entitled Teaching English Grammar Through True or False Quiz by Macro Feature in Microsoft PowerPoint for EFL students. So Miss Atta, you have 15 minutes. You may start.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the committee for this opportunity. I am Atta Relicia Aziz. My presentation today is about teaching English grammar through true or false quiz produced by macro feature in Microsoft PowerPoint in EFL student. So here's my outline. The first one is about introduction. The second is about theoretical review, discussion, and also conclusion. Okay. Well, learning grammar is something for students and challenging for teachers. It is because for non-English speaking country, when children acquire their mother tongue, they unconsciously master the characteristic and rules of mother tongue. This habit of speaking in certain language structure make the students difficult in learning English without learning its grammar, particularly for those who didn't acquire English since their early childhood. Therefore, teachers of English faced difficulties in teaching English grammar, especially for EFL students. To face this problem, teacher can integrate their teaching with technology to increase students' interest towards learning English grammar. Moreover, many kinds of application have been used as teaching media in this era, and one of the popular one is delivering teaching material using Microsoft PowerPoint. Why Microsoft PowerPoint? Because it's easy to be used, attractive, and familiar both for the students and also the teacher. Moreover, every PC must be provided by Microsoft Office, so we don't need to download any application, and the internet connection is not needed too. However, with the fame and frequent use of Microsoft PowerPoint, it makes PowerPoint presentation become rather boring media for learning. The students need to get an active part in learning. When learning grammar, which need more explanation and exercise, meets the students' need in terms of activeness in learning, a quiz by point can be the solution. There is a very useful feature on Microsoft PowerPoint, but lots of people are unfamiliar with it. This feature is called macro section. With this feature, teacher can create interesting and various types of quizzes using Microsoft PowerPoint. It enables them to make the teaching and learning of grammar more attractive. Therefore, this paper will discuss about the strategy of teaching grammar using interactive PowerPoint with macro feature that enable to make interactive yet efficient quiz for AFL students, followed by the benefit of every aspect. I choose true or false quiz because of its various benefits that will be discussed later. Um, in this theoretical review, it has two major sections. The former will explain about the use of macro feature in Microsoft PowerPoint, followed by its benefit. The latter will discuss about the teaching strategy to teach grammar. Okay, the first one is about macro feature in Microsoft PowerPoint. Using game-based learning such as quiz-based learning as an e-learning and teaching pedagogy can make a positive impact on how the students study, process, and maintain knowledge through their interaction with digital media, as cited by Square 2019. Moreover, the use of such media is a good idea to make grammar learning interesting and demand students' activeness in learning. Macro feature in Microsoft PowerPoint is used for creating types of quizzes or games such as true or false, multiple choice, fill in the blank, and matching. To activate the macro feature, we need to activate developer feature first. Just open the Microsoft PowerPoint and click File, Option, Customers Reborn, Developer, and then OK. It requires VBA to run the macro feature so that teacher can create quizzes. Besides, it is argued that using the built-in scripting features, Visual Basic for application and the interactive PowerPoint can be extended to unlimited dimension. VBA, which stands for Visual Basic Application, is a very strong object-oriented language programming that act to develop the function of Microsoft Office application, including Microsoft PowerPoint. The definition of VB itself sometimes sound too coding needed thing. Well, it's true, but actually it can be used easily since a teacher learns the VBA to be a scripter, not the programmer. And basically a lot of scholars have shared their VBA on the internet. Therefore, English teacher can download it and run the macro feature and run the macro feature. Um, the next one is about the strategy for teaching grammar. Okay, according to Link 2015, the concept of explicit learning refers to learning grammar by dominant means, such as analyzing grammar in sentence or memorizing grammar pattern, which is lead to teaching strategy into conscious or controlled grammar teaching. This kind of teaching known as traditional teaching grammar. I believe that almost all of us experience learning grammar through memorizing the pattern before making sentence. Well, it emphasizes the rules and control in grammar, and usually English teacher explained the material in the beginning of the lesson so that the students can immediately implement by that form to make sentences. The second strategy for teaching grammar is teaching grammar implicitly. Implicit is the contrast of explicit learning. According to Link 2015, implicit is a kind of unconscious behavior, abstract and unverified. The implicit grammar teaching emphasizes a method where the student must be naturally acquire the grammar rules through communicative use of language. Using implicit grammar teaching, students can gain better understanding of the relationship between semantics and function, even context, so that they are capable to produce the language in their daily communication. It is because teaching grammar implicitly focus on the meaning without ignoring the correct form of grammar. So teaching grammar implicitly drives the students to discover the language by themselves so that the learning become more memorable and meaningful. Now let's move on to the next slide, which is discussion. In this discussion, I want to show you what benefit we can get to if we make true or false quiz using macro feature in Microsoft PowerPoint. The reason why I use true or false quiz in teaching grammar is because the first, it's not difficult and time consuming, such as essay or short writing, so that teacher can give more numbers of questions for the student. And because learning grammar need more practice to get students familiar with the form, so true or false quiz is appropriate. And the next one is true or false quiz is good for knowledge level content and evaluating students' understanding of popular misconception. Teacher can give the easy question in the beginning before entering the difficult one. Here, teacher can monitor students' level of understanding towards grammar. And the last one is about time management. The more the student have good understanding towards grammar, the quicker they finish the quiz. If the student can answer 3 to 4 questions in a minute, it's good for practicing their focus and analysis capability. Therefore, this quiz can be given daily in the beginning or at the end of the course. Okay, now let's move to what inside the true or false quiz created using macro feature in Microsoft PowerPoint. The first page contains topic of the quiz. You can add the creator and to whom it is addressed. Besides, we can give a written instruction there so that the students can try to figure out what they should do in the quiz. Okay, next, in true or false quiz, we usually provide some statement for students. They just need to choose between C or correct or IC for incorrect. Simple and clear statements are required for the beginner level of grammar, while the more complicated one is for the advanced level. After finishing one page of questions, students can click submit icon and their score will be appeared immediately at the right page. Then students need to do all the questions in the quiz. At the end, students will get certificate to appreciate their work. The first blank will be filled by the participant's name that have been written in the very beginning of the quiz, and then the second blank is to show their score of the quiz. The next page is learning material. The learning material can be placed in the beginning if the teacher want to teach grammar explicitly. On the other hand, when teacher want to teach grammar implicitly, they want the student to discover it by themselves first. They can put the learning material at the end. Okay, now finally we come to the conclusion. To sum up, teachers of English grammar can create a quiz using macro feature in Microsoft PowerPoint in order to make the teaching grammar more attractive instead of having a lot of presentation using Microsoft PowerPoint. This macro feature gives a lot of benefits since teacher can create various kinds of quiz such as multiple choice, true or false, short answer, and matching. Teacher can give the quiz as a stimulus in the beginning of the lesson or as a test at the end of the lesson. The content of the quiz can be adjusted with teacher strategy, whether explicit or implicit grammar teaching. And this is my references. And I think that's all for my presentation today. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you, Miss Atta, for your interesting presentation. And now this is the time for us to have question and answer. So if you want to address for question, uh, you can ask directly, or you can also type in the chat box. If you want to ask directly, please click on the raise hand button and address your question. Okay, there is a question from Miss Dita for the first presenter. Is there any limitation of the scope of materials that can be taught by using VTS?
Yeah, will I do that, Chris?
Yeah, you can take that
do.
one.
There is absolutely no limitation, in my opinion, in the scope of materials that can be used for VTS. I would think that appropriate materials, though, should be chosen for the audience in question, taking into account, for example, young children or cultural background, religious background, etc. Otherwise, in my opinion, anything could be used for VTS, particularly in images. I have even carried out a VTS session with a piece of, it was a piece of art, but it was essentially a block of wood. But it was a piece of art and it had features on it, but you had to look very closely, and it was ideal for a VTS session, actually. Okay, so in my opinion, anything can be used for VTS, but you have to take account of the group of people you're carrying out the session with.
I think if I can add something, Sean also told me one time that there were some teachers also using VTS to teach math, using the math formula or using the math equations as the image itself.
Yes, indeed, that's a very good point, Christoph. That in fact, yes, that is true. Also, a piece of literature, a text. What is going on in this text? What is it you see that makes you say that? What more can we find in this text? I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Sida, do you want to add?
No, I was just asking, like, there's also another question for us. Are you going to
Yeah.
read that for us, or?
Yeah. What are the weaknesses of visual thinking strategies if it is implemented in Indonesia? It's from Johannes Ranyabar.
Do you want me to take that one, Sean?
I think you're the best qualified.
Okay. No, the thing is, we are still very optimistic that these visual thinking strategies is very much multicultural, and it transcends it transcends the border of culture. I mean, in fact, right now we're basically doing this research on visual thinking strategies to also to develop the intercultural competence, and also to help the integrations of the newly arrived students in the Scandinavian era. So I'm not sure if there can be any specific weakness for a specific culture, especially in Indonesia. The I guess the problem probably needs to the problem probably comes to from the mindset of the teachers, in which, I mean, frankly speaking, lots and lots of teachers in Indonesia actually did not really like the uh, a students that is too active. The problem is that right now there is still this like strong mindset of the teacher-centered classroom. But other than that, if one can go beyond that mindset, I think um, visual thinking strategies can be done anywhere.
Yeah, if I may add to that, aside from the Indonesian specific comments that Chris made, the point that it has been remarked that VTS carried out with children that are from several different backgrounds, so classes that are of in which the cultural diversity is present. It has been found to be very effective for creating intercultural understanding and cooperation. Thank you.
Oh, there's another question for us, Sean. How can VTS go hand in hand with critical thinking?
It's an interesting question, because ultimately VTS is all about developing critical thinking. So it basically is a critical thinking approach. So with the questions, what's going on in this picture, but the second question in particular, what is it you see that makes you say that, encourages the student to back up what they're saying with evidence, and to therefore produce evidence-based thinking, and to then question what they are saying based on their thinking. Do you want to add to that?
Yes, I mean, this is basically that was the reason why I gave you the first chance, because I think if without that I might like start talking nonstop about the critical thinking and critical pedagogy, because the idea with critical thinking, I mean, if I'm allowed to quote Paulo Freire, when you want to develop a critical thinking, then critical thinking is actually the results of the dialogue, the non-hierarchical dialogue. And VTS, by using VTS, and as Sean also explained before, that there should be an equal footing between the students there, then that actually opens up the space for the non-hierarchical dialogue. And also the teacher should also remain neutral. The teachers or the facilitator is not supposed to say, okay, this is the right one, this is the wrong one, but basically accommodating everything, which means showing, serving it on the table, that hey, there are all these possibilities. What do you think of all these possibilities? And that is actually like one of the first steps to develop a critical thinking, the critic, and also the critical awareness of everything.
Thank you for your questions.
Okay. That's all?
I think you don't want me to talk more about this one, because it then turned into a 3 credits
Okay.
lecture.
Okay, let's move on to the other question. I think this question from Ahmad Shafi'i. For I think I think this question is for the third presenter, Miss Atta, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I face some difficulties in teaching grammar in my English classroom because my students lost their motivation in studying. How to solve my problems? Is there attendance list for the Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay. In my opinion, when students lost their motivation in teaching, in learning grammar, uh, I can I can suggest you to make some quizzes online. It can be online quizzes using Kahoot, or the one that I have presented before. It is using uh, quizzes for uh, teaching grammar using macro feature in Microsoft PowerPoint. So basically, to increase their student motivation in learning grammar, you can always give them a game, because game is an efficient and interesting, attractive, and yeah, a lot of teachers use game or quiz to teach grammar. I think that's my suggestion for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Atta. And is there any other questions? Oh, there's a question for all the presenters. How to teach students who are below the average level by using the topic that you are present?
Um, Sean, do you want to take this first?
So how to teach students who are below the average level by using topic that you present? Well, the ultimately the one of the main premises of VTS is that everybody is equal. And so therefore everybody's encouraged to contribute, and every contribution is as valuable as another contribution. There is no hierarchy. And so therefore creating the safe environment for everybody in the classroom allows everybody to contribute, and therefore gain confidence in that their contribution is being valued. And over time, this has been noted to have an effect on weaker students, or who might be perceived as being weaker in a subject area in the classroom.
And there has also been research by Dori Jacobsons in 2018 about how the using these visual thinking strategies actually helps the second language learner in America. That um, in the first encounter, this child speaks only one words, and basically not specifying the things. He basically just said, "Oh, there's a food there, there's an animal there." But then after 3 months, um, Dory Jacobson saw that there was actually a development that it becomes more specific, and this specific student can actually formulate much better sentences with more specific vocabularies. And this also happens because of the scaffolding from the peers, and also well, as Sean has also mentioned before, it is this silent period that allows the students to build up more and more structures and vocabularies by listening to their peers.
So the social interaction, the it's the ZPD, the zone of proximal development, that can be, if you like, a synonym for the VTS session. That all of this is in play in helping the pupils go forward, and particularly those pupils that might be considered weaker. Yeah, I hope that responds to your question.
Okay, so from me, obviously, the English teachers especially, they can apply all the strategies, the learning strategies, start from memory strategies until social strategies. It's okay if we start from memory strategies, even though it seems like it's lower order thinking, but that is the first step before we go through to the higher thinking skills. Like for example, when we apply the cognitive strategies and metacognitive strategies. But first of all, since we aim to teach the students with low level, below the average level, I think that effective strategies, it is important because we need to motivate the students first. We need to make the students comfortable and happy when they learn English. When they are already motivated, and then we can teach them to motivate more so they can achieve the metacognitive strategies. If they have already comprehended the metacognitive strategies, then they can do the practice by themselves. Yeah. So that's all from me.
Okay, for my topic, I think for those who are below average level, teaching can be challenging, and teachers' duty is to make them want to study more, right? Because my topic is about teaching grammar, so I think to make the students have good interest towards grammar, teachers should encourage them by giving these true or false questions based on their level. So, do not give difficult question for them, because the first thing that we have to do is to encourage them. We have to show them that they are not in the lower level. They are just at the same level as others. That's it from my topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for all the presenters. And this is the end of our parallel session today. And after this, we still have the session for keynote speaker. So I have shared the link to you in the chat box for the main room. So you can click on that and then you can go to the main room. And before we end this session, so let us having virtual photo. Okay? Please turn on your camera. Ready? Are you ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3, cheers. Okay. One more. 1, 2, 3, speed. Okay, thank you. So let us move on to the main room and enjoy for the rest of the conference. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.